Hello, dear friends. Here we are at Kardec Radio. We are here to study the book Evolution into Worlds by Andre Luiz. Yes, the spirit author through two different mediums. What a book! A book that is unprecedented on earth. A masterpiece, and you and I have the honor of having this material in English firsthand after 60 years. Actually, this book was already translated in 2011 uh, by a group of the Spiritist Society of Virginia and the Spiritist Society of Baltimore. But the book is only coming to life in its publication in 2018 by a different group of translators. Wow, wonderful. And you and I have the opportunity of being studying this book that tells us about our immortality. Chapter 11 is about the existence of the soul. Evolution into Worlds teaches us how to look at life with bifocal lenses. You know what bifocal lenses is, right? You see near and far, near and far. Aha. So that's why he named it Evolution into Worlds. Welcome, friends. What a joy. It is a joy for us to study the teachings. They are not mine. I'm just repeating here. And we have slides, PowerPoint slides, to facilitate the teachings. So, if you find the language a little complex, wonderful, because that's a sign that you're progressing. Don't go only for studies that are easy, etc., because they are just repeating the same old. When we study something like this in Kardec's works, we are, and Andre Luiz and Emmanuel, and they are a little harder to digest. It's a sign that we are progressing in the acquisition of our knowledge. Hopefully, feeling it. If we don't feel it, there's no use. Okay? Are you ready? Yes. We're going to be studying today chapter 11, which is about the existence of the soul. What does he have to tell us? Remember, we have been studying multi-millenary pilgrimage of ours. It took us 1.5 billion years to go from the moment we were created as the chrysalis of conscience to the age of reason. 1.5 billion years. Now, Andre Luiz is going to teach us more elements that we have never heard before. Ready? Let's go. Here we are. He tells us. He says, the morphological evolution continued in line with the moral evolution. How interesting is this? Science doesn't know about it on Earth yet. It's the Spiritist science that is bringing to us this immortal concept that we live into worlds when we are incarnated and we are evolving physically and evolving morally. The morphological, which is the evolution of the form, continued in line with the moral evolution. So we evolve spiritually, and then physically we also expand. We expand physically, pushing ourselves to new experiences, evolving morally, and vice versa. One affects the other affects the one. And he says, our skull advanced slowly on the road to greater improvement. Look at this, my friends. Look at this. This is a diagram showing to us 2.2 to 3 million years ago, the man ape, the Australopithecus. Then less than a million years ago, the Homo erectus, Java man, and then the Neanderthal man between 100,000 to 400 years ago, and the Homo sapiens sapiens, which is our current one 4,000 years ago to the present. We evolved morally, we evolved in our form, the physical form, okay? And this is not by chance, because the instrument of the physical body changes according to our evolution as spirits. He keeps saying to us, our arms refined, the hands acquired, tactile experience, excellence, all of the senses progressed in refinement and progression. Now, attention. However, says André Luiz, with the advent of responsibility that separated humanity from the direct guidance of the benefactors of the greater life, humanity surrendered to multiple attempts of progress in the field of the spirit. Pause, 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 because it's so important and we must meditate more deeply on this one. Shall we? Let us talk about this. Attention, super attention here. What is he saying to us? First, he's saying that the form evolves in the physical, the spiritual and the physical body in parallel, because it's a natural consequence of the evolvement of the spirit, which involves and encompasses the moral part. Now he's talking about to us the fact that when we gained responsibility, okay, when we gained responsibility, right, with our free will, in a way, we became more distracted from the direct guidance of the benefactors. Of course, it's like a child. It's like a child. As a baby, as the chrysalis, like the baby in the womb prenatally, super dependent on the mother. As a baby, super dependent. And then as a child, gradually more independent when he becomes adult. Hopefully, independent. But spiritually, it's not that we're dependent or not. We're still being guided, but in a different way. And that's what we tell parents as well. When your children grow, we need to make adjustments in the way we interact with our children. No longer in the same way. And I know parents will say, oh, I miss my baby. He's no longer a baby. She's no longer a baby. Thank God that they have to progress. Oh, but I miss. No, I don't want to be controlling. I want them to fly high. I miss their company, but I don't miss that relationship, because it's a sign that there's something in me that depends on that domination to be happy. I need to be happy when I see somebody becoming independent. When I have no voice any longer. And I know parents who go depressed when that happens. That's not good. We would recommend go find some good therapist to deal with those emotions. Now for us here, it's the reverse. We gain responsibility. We have our free will, and the direct guidance changes. The spiritual benefactors of the greater life, André Luiz says, we change our relationship with them. So now we voluntarily want them to guide us. So we go after them through a prayer, through good actions. and cherish that relationship. How is your relationship with your protecting spirit? Scale 0 to 10. Is it doing well? 10. Or is it like awkward or non existent in your perception? 0. I would say it doesn't exist. But for us, we need to meditate. Okay? What we're doing. Andrea Toys is saying, I'm happy with my kids' age. For me, it's better now. 16 and 17. God bless. Good for you, Andrea. Give me just a second, friends. Let me just double check something here with Virginia, and I'll be right back with you, okay? Everything is fine. Sadness is gone and happiness arrives. Thank you for waiting. Adriana Palmeira is mentioning, I have 27-year-old son and a 6-year-old daughter, and I am happy with our relationship. Although my 27-year-old is more distant, my little one is very close and suffocating me a little. Thank you for sharing, Adriana. But these are thoughts that we need. These are thoughts that we need to meditate upon. Now, responsibility is acquired, and our relationship with the guides change. So now, what happens next? Andrea Luiz is going to share with us the next steps into this understanding. He says, then the next step is what we call mentalization. In the internal regimen of free inquiry, evolution gave audacious wings to humanity's thought, and with that the power to imagine, facilitating the mentalization and the detachment of the spiritual body, whose cells, in connection with the cells of the physical body, were thus automated in partial emancipation through sleep to access the soul to teachings of higher structure. What is mentalization? Mentalization is the ability to understand our mental state of oneself or others that underlies overt behavior. Look at this baby. It's like there is a moment in their development in which they look at themselves in the mirror and they recognize it's them. So he's talking about in the evolution when we start asking questions and we have the power to imagine and to realize about who we are, who others are, etc. That's a gain in evolution, okay? And he says, in a way, we're going to recapitulate the millions of different stages of lower realms when we are reincarnating. This is the theory of Ernest Haeckel that says the ontogeny recapitulates phylogeny. In Spiritism, we confirm that this exists. It's still a big discussion in science. There's still a lot of conversation regarding this. But as you can see here, embryos and evolutionary, it's like the phylogenesis is present, all the different species in gestation, the forms. It's about the morphology and evolution shown in our prenatal life. So André Luiz is teaching us that the form in the physical is not by chance, that it pertains to the evolution of millions of years. And thus, he brings a new awareness for us regarding when we had the first notion of right. Okay, I'm going to put a pause here. So just to make sure that we're on the same page, because you may be asking here, but Vanessa, um, Jailton is asking, the last two slides you haven't shared with us. Okay, so let me see. Oh, let me see, Jailton, if you can see it now. I'm not so sure if you saw it, but I was showing right now this mentalization. Okay, so this slide on mentalization, Andrea Luiz says that when we started asking questions, okay, when we started asking questions, that's when we started the power of imagination, facilitating this mentalization. Okay, mentalization here is in when we boosted our ability to understand the mental state of ours and others. And he says more. He says to us, and the detachment of the spiritual body during sleep time, so we can learn new things. This is chapter 8 of the Spirit's book by Kardec. It talks about the emancipation of the soul and teaches us how during sleep we can go places and learn new things, hopefully. And then he says, we evolve, and in our evolution, we're going to, at some point, recapitulate. He's talking about the form and evolution, moral and physical evolution. And he says that we are recapitulating during prenatal life all the stages of lower kingdoms, he says lower realms, in embryogenesis, which is the embryo. Oops, embryogenesis. Okay, that's the picture that we showed when Hackles said that ontogeny recapitulates phylogeny. Now he's going to enter a new topic, talking about the soul when we started having the notion of our rights. When did that begin? When did we start talking about rights, duties, etc.? When was it? Now Andrea Lewis is going to review too. So let's go for the single slide to share with you the information that he gives to us. He says, due to the detachment to the children, due the attachment to the children of the flesh, human beings institute land property in which the dwelling is embedded. Attending to the same root of affection, humans outline certain rules of conduct so that it does not impose offenses and prejudices that do not wish to receive. And this is just in general, okay? He's talking about that moment in which we were able to visualize ourselves having rights, but also restricting our actions to make sure we are not assaulted or not to impose offense, so we are not harmed as well. And Andrea Luiz keeps telling us that that's when, oops, I think we skipped something. So he says the unexpected happened. The savage individual, he's talking about the caveman, who does not want to give up their appetites and pleasures of animal experience, manufactures from themselves the brakes that will control their freedom so that they may ennoble their beginner character, establishing tyrannical possession in everything that they consider being theirs. Human beings give up on taking advantage of what belongs to the neighbor under the penalty of exposing cruel, cruel penalties. Thus, the notion of right begins regarding the respected obligations. Okay, I know he talks a lot of words for us that may be way beyond what we want to talk about, okay? But he's just saying once they realize that everybody's fighting for their own rights, people observed that there is a limit to that right, that there is no absolute right, that there is a limit, and the limit is I only do what I would like to receive. Well, we're still learning it. We're still learning it. But at some point, everybody's going to learn it on earth, right? And that's when he says we start waking up in our consciousness. He says this is how the transformed humanity begins to interpret in a new way the importance of their presence on earth. Human beings recognize that they have the freedom to kill the ones they dislike, but they are aware that the disliked person in turn may also exterminate their body or embitter their way. They realize that their gestures and attitudes towards others generates in others attitudes and gestures similar to them. So that's the fine line. That's when we learn that there's a limit to our rights. And you may be so right asking at this very moment, but Vanessa, there are human beings who to date they think they can do anything and they don't care. Well, life is going to teach them that there is a limit. There is a limit. But we're talking about a point in time when the first humans on earth observed that they can do whatever they like, but the other person can also do whatever they like. So we better set the boundaries. Good neighbors, they depend on good fences, right? Good fences make good neighbors, right? Because there is a boundary. There are people who think, and it's a myth, they think that if you like them and they like you, there's no limit. There's no limit. No, there is the limit of the individuality. Look at Jesus, our guide and model. Our guide and model, Jesus, teaches us the beauty, teaches us the beauty of respecting people's boundaries. We've never heard that Jesus was entitled to anything. But Vanessa, there was a time that he was always in Peter's home. Well, that he was there, but he was not there to be served. Aha! He was there to serve. He shared the bread, says Humberto de Campos in the Book Good News. He was the one that was serving people before dinner, which was unusual and still is, because he's the master, and usually we serve the master. That's a different master. He was served. He used to fish with them. So he was an extra hand as well. He was not there seated doing nothing. Plus, he was healing, he was counseling, he was doing carpentry. That's our guide and model. Always active, always useful, and he was never entitled to anything. He only said our God. He didn't even say my God. He said, our Father who is in heaven. Our Father. He didn't say, oh my God, you sent me here, self-centered, right? No. He teaches us to pray. He teaches us to pray, okay? And he's teaching us how to be all-encompassing, to be one with everyone. Completely different from what we know nowadays. Let's go back. And he says that we woke up, that our consciousness now we realize that the gestures and attitudes towards others generates in others attitudes and gestures similar to them. So we realize that society has the same rights as we do. Human beings are no longer seduced by unconcern and nomadism like the adult individual who has already passed the cycle of childhood. Humanity now knows that the carnal crib is of deeper meaning, and little by little, humanity understands that life registers. I don't know why, probably you cannot see. Why is this happening? Let me just fix this for you. Okay. There you go. There you go. Here we are. So, awakened conscience. Little by little, we understand that life registered our personal experiences because we learn that we can deny support to the fellow beings, but they can also deny it to us. Action and reaction. Bottom line, Andre Luiz is saying to us, we finally awake to the point that there is action and reaction. Do you realize it? That there is action? No? Yes. So, as he's talking about the existence of ourselves, he's telling us that we evolve and that we evolve in the notion of right. We awaken our consciousness regarding our sense of community, and that what I do may return to me, action and reaction. And yet, there are people to date who do not know or are not aware of this. They claim, I do whatever I like, whenever I like, the way I like, and I don't care if people dislike. Wow, it even rhymes, right? But Under Lewis tells us that there is a point, a moment in which we first realize it. Deep inside, we know it's true. At this very moment that we're living in, if we're not following through with this notion, it's no longer ignorance, it's actually stubbornness, pride. Back then at caveman time, it was just lack of consciousness, Nowadays, it's stubbornness. Because we are at another level of evolution. So let's go back and see what André Luiz says. Now he's going to talk about transformation, and he uses the analogy of the larva and the child. In that comparison, he's going to teach us about transformation. Okay? She. Okay, here we are, the larva and the child. He begins by saying, in this sense, it is important to remember that the similarities between the human soul and the metamorphosis of insects. Okay? So you understand about it, he says, let's look at metamorphosis first. What it is, right? The transformation of the form in different stages. So André Luiz is going to talk about complete metamorphosis versus incomplete. And you may be asking, what's the difference? That's the difference. The complete metamorphosis, as you can see in this picture, is all about 4 stages. The egg, the larvae, the pupa, and the adult, versus the incomplete that has only 3 stages, egg, the nymphs in different sizes, but it's not a larva, and the adult. So different stages. So we're going to talk about the first one, 4 stages, in which there is the chrysalis, the pupa, where we're going to see the transformation. Okay? Now, let's go back to André Luiz. He says, the larva, if we, in an analogy, look at the larva, it moves away from the egg and enters a new period of development, which can last for a long time, as it occurs in the bugs, the ephemeridans, those are the animals, showing at the beginning the membrane of the body still preserved in the digestive tract of the embryonic stage, which will later initiate the excretion and feeding and digestion. Now, the human child leaves the uterus and enters a new phase of evolution, which is established over a few years. At first, the child is fragile and retains within her own organization the resources of blood that were given to her through endosmotic maintenance in the maternal organism, which will be eliminated as soon as possible, generating those that are her own. So he's now comparing the moments of the development of metamorphosis of the insects with the gestation of humans. Okay, talking about that cocoon, the preparation for the birth. And he says, in a way, and I'm not going to read it all. I'm not going to read it all to you. There's no need. But just to summarize, he says, moving forward in the execution of the programs drawn up for the existence, the larva grows and uses nutritious materials for the growth of the body. And for the human child, it develops taking the precise food for the development of the body. But the child, the human child, understands through the command of the mind that the tissues are renewing, new shape is being created, etc. So what is André Luiz telling us about? He's talking about stages of renewal for us, and he calls it spiritual histogenesis. What is histogenesis? It's when we create A new tissue, it's like the diversification of the very cells into specialized cells that will generate tissues. Okay. Now he says to us, likewise, the human creature goes through expressive stages of inner renewal until the maturity of the body. Nevertheless, they present themselves with the same external form, since only after the exhaustion of the vital force in the course of life, through senectude or cachexia by a disease, it is possible to transform more deeply. Pause, 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 because the concept here is super deep and we cannot lose sight of what Andre Luiz wants us to say. Why is he insisting on this concept of metamorphosis, of transformation? Why? So let me talk to you. Let us talk about this, shall we? Okay. He's talking about transformation. And he says to us, right? He says this. We go through stages of inner renewal. Pause. Have you observed if you're changing or not? Because there is what Andre Luiz says in the book Action and Reaction. Pain evolution, dor evolução, pain evolution. 3 types of pain. Expiation pain, pain evolution, and aiding pain. Expiation, the pain that goes through expiation, has everything to do with what we call karma. And I'll say this just to summarize, but if you go to read the book Action Reaction by Andre Luiz, you get it all. So we suffer because we made suffer. And now we process, purge, filter out the disturbance we have created. There is pain evolution, which is the soreness of the spiritual muscles, quote unquote, because we're stretching, expanding. It's hard, like this study. Sometimes it's painful. I know. It's like, oh, Andre Luiz, what did you mean? It's hard, but it's a good heart because it's the lifting of a knowledge that is heavier, creating new muscles, expanding our view. So you don't want the same old. We don't want the same old. We want the new. You want the new. I want the new. Right? I want the new. You want the new. We all want the new. Okay? So if we do not evolve, we're going to be pushed to evolve. Tsunamis come, earthquakes, fires, and several other applications. You are at work, you have been there for 20 years doing the same old thing, the same old thing, the same old thing. It's comfortable, it's easy, piece of cake. One day, you're fired. And then you don't know what to do. Great, we're going to learn something new potentialities. But I want the same job, but I think life is telling you, find something else. You need to learn something new. Yes. So welcome the new. That's a good affirmation. Tell yourself, I love learning the new. I welcome the new. And I'm not afraid because God is in charge. The curriculum of the universe is perfect. The schools of the universe are perfect for our learning experience. So surrender radically, accept radically the beauty of life as is. So, and he says here that we're going to go through these renewals until we get through the aging years or even diseases. Cachexia means diseases, the weakness of the body that comes with chronic diseases. And in that will be transformed more deeply. Isn't that true? Will be totally transformed. Right, Rudy? Right? And then he's going to tell us about this carnation. He's going to say to us, through spiritual histogenesis, the cytoplasmic tissues are finally unleashed from some of the characteristics that are theirs, returning temporarily to the condition of multiform embryonic cells that through karyokinesis shapes the form of the spiritual body. So remember, we're learning about two worlds, and he's telling us about two worlds, the spiritual body developing new form according to our experiences here. So now he's going to the last part of the chapter in which he's talking about birth, the phases of development and incarnation, and then the transformation through death, the discarnation of the spirit. And that's when we come here to this final part of this chapter. He's talking about the full circle of our existence. Okay? Full circle. That's why he's talking about birth, death, and then rebirth, and death again, and then birth, and another death. And you're afraid of death, but you have already discarnated before. It's not the first time. It's not the first time you get married, you have a child, that somebody whom you love dies, etc. You have already experienced. There are people who say, oh my gosh, this never happened to my life. In this life, but you bet, in previous lives, you never know. Okay? So think about in a multi-millenary way. Everything takes a different mindset. Okay? So let me just adjust a little bit this slide so I can put in a bigger way and you can see it. So he says, in a renewal, now the discarnation. It is only then, when the events of death take place, that the disembodied human creature, fully renewed in herself, leaves the carnal vehicle to which it was joined. However, often intimately imprisoned in the cocoon of their dominant thoughts, when the spirit did not work to renew herself in the recessions of the spirit, that they are revealed in a specific way according to the density of the mental life in which they had lived. What is he talking about here? He's talking about the fact that you and I discarnate, detach from that physical body, but still we are imprisoned in our thoughts. We need to pause. I know, we need to pause. Because what he's saying to us here is an information that is different. He's talking about the fact that energetically we're imprisoned in our main thoughts. Homework for you and I. What are your daily main thoughts? Fear, discouragement, anger? What kinds of thoughts? Oh, people don't like me. People don't accept me. People don't love me. I'm awkward. I don't belong to this world. And when you discarnate, you're going to continue feeling and thinking that way. Or the opposite. I love and approve of myself in ways that are pleasing to God. You are a child of God. I am a child of God. I make a choice. It's either the destructive mental current or the constructive one. I'm loved because I love. Oh, but people don't love me. But do you love people? Because if you love, they're gonna love you at some point. Oh, they don't appreciate me. Do you appreciate them? But they don't respect me. But do you respect them? Because that scenario is going to continue in the afterlife. He says, we're still going to be imprisoned in the cocoon of our dominant thoughts. Hmm? So we need to find out, right, Leticia? Thank you for sharing about your life. God bless you and your 3-year-old son. Okay? So the exercise is to find out what are our main dominant thoughts, our central theme, as André Luiz says in the book Action Reaction. And he continues by telling us that new elements meet their own diet. Okay? He says to us, meet their own diet to the fluidic magnetic suction tubes, though without losing in any way the oral apparatus that is characteristic to us. Pause. What is he talking about? He's saying that when we discarnate, our digestive system is going to change. He talked about it already in chapter 2 that we have studied, right? There are two main vital centers, chakras, that will be changed. The first one is the solar plexus because it's organizing our digestion. It's going to change. There will be a difference in the fluidic magnetic exchange, and the sexual part, the reproductive one, is going to change as well. And he continues. It should also be noted that similar tubes or subtle matter are evident in the incarnate creatures. They are expressed in the common aura like elongated dynamic roots, externalizing specific radiations. He's talking about the chakras. Okay? Through such tubes or antenna, we assimilate or repel emanations of things and the beings that surround us, as well as the radiations of ourselves to others as well. So it is through those chakras that we exchange fluidic information. So be careful where you go. Who do you live with? Because we exchange. We exchange through the pores of our spiritual body. Literally. Literally. Okay? And he's going to say when we discarnate, many of these things will change as well. But life goes on. He says to us that life goes on and the human personality is transformed, metamorphosed, in spite of the phenomenon of discarnation. Beyond the tomb, the human personality continues the educational internship that began in the cradle without losing their own identity, adding their experiences of carnal life, the discarnation, the metamorphosis in the extra-physical plane. So we keep on going. So he's saying the identity of ours do not change. It doesn't change with discarnation. But there are people who think it changes. There are people who believe. There are people who believe that we renew ourselves like that when we discarnate, and we don't. We keep our identity, but the habits, the thoughts, the feelings, The words are the same. And then he finally wraps up the chapter by saying to us that life goes on, it continues, it continues. And it continues in such a way that he says, we will thus see that the existence of the creature in reincarnation is substantiated not only on earth, where we attend to the feelings, the sowing of feelings, words, attitudes, and actions, but also in the spiritual world, where they incorporate the same harvesting of the sowing practiced in the physical field, unfolding the learning with which they enshrine the necessary experiences for the sublime ascension for which they are intended. So we keep sowing here and there. We keep sowing as incarnated and discarnated. Do you have a loved one who has departed already? They are who they are. If they used to smoke, you're going to have a hard time in the afterlife because they are going to be willing to smoke. Addictions, we bring them with us. It's in the spirit, it's in our minds, it's not in the physical. The physical is just responding to it. In the Gospel according to Spiritism, there is a passage that talks about care for the body and soul. And since I cannot memorize precisely the chapter, I'm going to give it to you because I have also the Gospel according to Spiritism in the iPhone. So, there are Kindle versions of it, right? So let me give it to you since I cannot recall the chapter. It's a beautiful passage in which there are spirits giving information. Amongst them, Hahnemann, the father of homeopathy. Did you know? Care for body and spirit. Body and spirit. Ay, ay, ay. Why can't I find it? I don't know if they laid it out this way. But I will find out and later post here on our beautiful program the very part of it. I cannot find it. I think it is in the part of being perfect. Yeah, it is. Chapter 17, item 11. Caring for the body and the spirit. Chapter 17 of the Gospel according to Spiritism. Okay? Read it. And the spirits tell us. 343. Look at this. Do not blame, says Hahnemann, the father of homeopathy. He's one of the ones that says, but especially this one is from George's. He also has another message here. He says, do not think that your body is to blame for. Hahnemann talks about anger, and he says, don't blame your body for it. It's in us. And everything that we do, say, feel, and think is registered in our very spirit. And it's going to reflect in the physical body. Psychosomatics is validated by the spiritist science. It's a real thing. Nothing happens in the physical before being imprinted from the spiritual. The mental body, the spiritual body, the perispirit, and the physical body. Andre Luiz, in this chapter today, he reminds us that our life goes on, but it's a must to change. Are you changing? Are you changing? Am I changing? They are asking us, are you allowing yourself to renew yourself? Or are you keeping yourself in the same old conditionings? That's what I like, the way I like. No, no, no. We're invited daily to do something new. Try something tiny, new thing every day. It can be of any sort, material or spiritual, emotional. Think about it. That's a good exercise. Think about your dominant thoughts and how you can change it. How we can change it. We can change by acquiring new habits every day. New habits every day. Are you in the same frequency or trying for a higher frequency? Thank you, Carol. So that's it for today, friends. When we come back tomorrow, Andre Luiz is going to teach us another chapter, chapter 12, which is about the evolution into worlds, passing through the understanding of discarnation. It is important that we understand about how we discarnate and how this happens in two worlds. You know why? So you prepare for yours again, so you help others when they discarnate as well. Chapter tomorrow is chapter 12, and Andrea Luiz is going to teach us new lessons about life in two worlds and how we can make this reincarnation more efficient in our evolution. Shall we, friends? A big hug to you, and I hope to see you tomorrow so we can study more together. Jailton saying a lot of food for thought. I agree with you. Exercise. What is our dominant thought, right? Feelings during the day, and adding inner renewal consciously every single day. But don't forget, you're not alone. You have the good spirits that are ready to help you, help all of us. A big hug. May you have a wonderful night, beautiful day. Until tomorrow.